First question would be about how it was returning to adulthood, having been an adolescent, because you really do jump in this movie from the last movie, right, in terms of age. The second one is, will there be other Night Furies, or is DeBlois the last? And the last one is, can you give us any hints about the third movie?
Okay, well, we very deliberately advanced the narrative by 5 years because we realized that, coming out of the first movie, Hiccup had achieved everything he wanted. He had the admiration of his father and respect of the town. He even had the affection of Asker, the girl that he was pining for. So to give him a new problem, we kind of looked at most of our journeys in life, and we realized that there's that moment where you're kind of looking back at your childhood with longing and realizing that the future looks daunting because you have to become an adult. In Hiccup's case, he's being groomed to become chief, and that just seems a very dull and bad fit for him as a future. So it's about him really discovering that kind of that other half of his soul that's kind of lurking out there in the world, and he expresses that by constantly mapping and going deeper into uncharted lands, finding new dragons and finding new conflicts. Second part of the question. Yes, Hiccup is, Toothless is a very unique dragon, and I think that Hiccup is as curious as to whether or not they will find another Night Fury out there in their travels, but that has yet to be seen whether or not it will pay off.
Our next question, middle of the room there, go ahead.
Can you talk about the adventures, involvement at home, and in relation to Toothless and Hiccup? The maternal part of it, of the story?
Yeah, well, that was, we had hoped that was going to be a fun reveal for the movie. But now that it's out there, yeah, I think part of Hiccup realizing that there's a part of him that's missing is kind of drawn out from the first movie, this idea of what happened to his mother, and where was she? And so we thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting if she's been missing for 20 years, and in those 20 years, like Diane Fossey, she's been living among dragons and learning their ways and discovering their secrets and becoming their fierce protector. And if Hiccup were to run into that person, well, of course, then here's this other side of him that's just living this intense, interesting, dragon-centric life. No wonder he's this dragon whisperer and such a square peg. So it's really about kind of expanding his own self-discovery.
He didn't answer that.
Okay, so since this is a franchise that's also had a great life on television as well, what are the different kinds of stories that you think fit better for the film universe versus within the television landscape?
Well, Dean had pointed out earlier that one of the cool things about the TV show is that we get to sort of go a bit more everyday life type of thing. We don't have enough screen time in the movies. We have a very specific finite amount of time that things have to happen in the movies. And what the TV show gives us is it gives us a chance to put the audience in that neighborhood, on that island, experiencing the sort of minutia of everyday life, what it is to be a Viking on Berg. And I'll let him talk about what he thinks would make a good movie.
Well, I think, the idea of doing a sequel needed to be necessary to me, and I think that there were enough unanswered questions in the first movie that it did feel there was more story to be told, but my pitch was that it be a trilogy, so that it could be the middle act of a 3-act story, and that it will culminate in a very finite way, in much the way that Cressida's Cowell's books end, so the disappearance of dragons and kind of what happened to them, and Hiccup's completion as his coming of age. So there's a lot of interesting stuff there, lots to explore, and I think that the stories kind of write themselves. The moment that you leave the island of Berk and venture off into this rich world that Cressida Cowell created, where there are different types of dragons with different abilities all over the place. It's just a fun world to live in and very easy to write, actually.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. You've also been doing the TV show as well.
Thanks.
So I guess it's rare to see that happen when you see a TV spinoff made for these movies, and you see the star of the movie, comes back for the the same character in the TV show as well. How did that come up, and how do you think it's worked out where you get to see Hiccup evolve over the movies and the show as well?
Well, for me, there was just there was no question that I didn't want anyone else to play it. Like I think part of an actor's job is to take ownership of the character and to be defensive and protective and all that stuff. And so when there was even the first mention that Hiccup might have a life on television, it had to be me, in my opinion. What it's really cool about the TV show is it kind of takes place in between the two movies. And so when all is said and done and we walk away, we'll have given the world a pretty full, complete story. And selfishly, it's kept me in that mind space. And so like a lot of people have been asking what it's like to come back to this character and come back to this world, and my answer has constantly been I never left. And so yeah, I just love that we're creating this kind of pretty deep open platform multi-media world, and so yeah, no, what it all comes down to is I just didn't want anyone else to play Hiccup.
Thank you.
Nor would we.
Thank you. That's good news.
Have next question here.
I just wanted to ask Jay a little bit about voice acting, if you have any way you get ready for it or any challenges.
How do I get ready for it? My getting ready involves waking up, taking a shower, and going in there. Sometimes I don't even shower because I don't have to. I don't have to put makeup on or costume or anything. Sometimes I give myself a cool mission. I try to not shower for 2 weeks if I know I'm going to have to be in a room with him for a few hours. But no, I adore it. It was kind of, when I started acting when I was 12, which is strangely 20 years ago, one of the first gigs I had was in dubbing, and dubbing shows from France into English in Montreal. And if you can do dubbing, you can do any of it. Dubbing is about as thankless and labor intensive as voice acting gets, and so this is just a dream. And I love it because I have a pretty overactive imagination. I'm a chronic daydreamer, and being in that booth, that's what's required, because there's no actual dragons in front of me, nor anywhere in the world, I suspect. And so yeah, no, it just kind of caters to what I love to do. And also at this point, I don't know how many years I've been working with him. It was seven, yeah. We just kind of have a shorthand, and I much prefer to take notes from him than most people.
It's also, one thing to say about Jay, he's one of those actors that embodies the character so well that he's an authority on it. I'll write lines that are in the neighborhood, and Jay will often he'll do one or two passes at that, and then he'll just give me the line that's perfect because it's in character, it's better than I had written, and the ad-libs have so much more life to them as well. So thanks, man. You're welcome.
Go ahead.
You guys probably had about 10 dragons in the first movie. How many do you think we can expect to see different types in the new movie? Because it looks like there's a lot in this one. And what was the thought process in creating each different one?
Well, yeah, you're going to see.
Wait a second, you know exactly how many dragon geniuses we tracked in the first movie? That's wow. No, I'm not. I wasn't giving a shit. I'm impressed. I was like, how come I don't know that?
We've definitely. We have a group of dragons that were designed to kind of fill the spaces because Volca has a dragon sanctuary filled with dragons she's rescued. And we actually came up with a modular system where we could pair different heads with different bodies and wings and tails and come up with endless varieties that way. So they are the background, in a sense, that create this thousands of new dragons. But featured, there are probably, I think, about the same amount of new dragons that have hero moments that are really well rigged and really well thought out, that are hopefully every bit as surprising as the other ones, if not more so.
When you are doing the voices, are you guys in a individual room, or are you working all together and being together and playing off of each other's expressions?
You mean you guys actors?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. This could be the two of us. I think on this one I was only ever in the same room as another actor once. But here's the thing, it's like this is a fairly international cast and a really big cast. And so some of us are in Australia, some of us are in Canada, some of us are in the States, different parts of the States. And so it's one of the cool things about it being voice acting is that that doesn't step in the way of things, that we can still find a way to create, to record together and all that stuff. But for me, it's usually in isolation, yeah.
It's nice when we can get actors together because you can let them run the scene and step on each other's lines and sometimes go off script if it feels right. So I think the voice acting in animation is probably the only spontaneous element. Everything else is so meticulously planned and executed, and it happens over the course of several years. So I encourage it whenever I can, just to have characters either actors interact or in the case of Jay, go off script if it feels right to do so, because oftentimes that's the material we end up using.
Who would like next question? Anyone?
You don't have to. If there isn't.
We have more time.
got-
Anyone
I have a
any
question.
questions? Go ahead.
So you said sometimes he goes off script. So when he goes off script, does that mean you have to go back to the animators and you change the animation?
In animation, we always record the voice actors first, and then the animators get a breakdown of those lines down to the vowel and the consonants, so they know what to make for the mouth shapes. So it doesn't really affect the animation. Sometimes, however, late notes that might come in, we end up re-recording, and then the animators have to go back and adjust. Sure.
A question right here.
The scope gets really big in this movie, and what Hiccup discovers while he's out mapping the world is that there's a brewing conflict. That conflict being incited by a very ambitious conqueror who's looking to build a dragon army. And he's played by Jaimin Hunzu. His name is Drago Bloodfist. And Drago Bloodfist employs dragon trappers. One of the best dragon trappers, the self-declared greatest dragon trapper of all, is Eret, son of Eret, played by Kit Harington. And he's a guy with some misplaced loyalty, but we sort of pan him out through the movie. And then the third character who I've made mention of is Hiccup's long-lost mother, who is played by Kate Blanchett. And she's kind of waging a one-woman war against Drago's ambitions by actually rescuing those dragons and whisking them back to a sanctuary where she mends them back to health. Hi.
Because you haven't left your character this entire time, how much input do you get to give towards maybe his reactions or things like that? Do you get to give more input now that you've played it for so long?
I'd like to think so, but I really have no idea. I mean, they might just be humoring me, do you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, sure, go, do that one, yeah, whatever, they won't use it. But no, I'll say that I argue a lot, no, not a lot, but I just sort of like I adore that character, and I'd like to think I'm one of the people that knows him the best. Call me old-fashioned. And so, yeah, that's kind of one of the nice things is that, like, we've been at this together for a while now, and so it's kind of like, I don't know, it's just a beautiful collaboration, and if nothing else, they allow me to chime in. So
It's absolutely true. I think Hiccup is so similar to Jay in so many ways that, when Jay has an opinion about the character, what he would say, what he wouldn't say, or how he might say it, I give up the fight because I know I may have heard it a certain way in my head, but that's me second guessing him. And he's the greatest authority on the character, so I try to get it in the neighborhood and he takes it home.
thanks.
You have a question here?
Hi, I'm Mark with Maggie Radio. What's the plan for the franchise moving forward? More movies, more TV, comic books, spin-offs? What else do you guys have planned?
Well, I know that they're preparing for a third season. I don't know if it's been greenlit yet, but the idea of the third season would actually begin to set up the second movie. So that's the beauty of it. They've done 2 seasons that were intentionally not stepping on our toes in terms of the surprises and reveals that we have. Now that the second movie will be out there, then the third season that would follow it could get a little closer to the setups of those things, and yeah, hopefully create a seamless narrative. I know that there's been quite a lot of talk about expanding the world with different novels and young adult novels that would kind of explore different characters and different backstories, and so that's all yet to come. I know the general idea is out there, and it's a big ambition. We want to keep developing the world and just make it go as far as we can. But specifics I'm not that aware of.
We're going to take one final question right here in the middle.
Dean, do you voice a character in this movie, like perhaps a dragon creature or a hapless Viking or anything?
No. I do a lot of the temporary voicing. In fact, I'm the temporary voice of Hiccup until Jay comes in. It's horrible and embarrassing. I'd never let any of you hear it. I'm not an actor, and I'm very happy to hand it over. But it's just a necessary.
It makes my life wonderful. I look forward to it so much. His temp work, the sort of.
See, this is exactly
The
why.
reason I get up in the morning. Are you kidding me? Because he kind of sometimes tries to do a little impression and everything. It's the best.
Well, Dean and Jay, thank you.
Thanks for having us.